Federal case just hit a whole new level of chaos.
Federal authorities say Lil Durk is also behind an alleged murder-for-hire plot.
Prosecutors say the rapper tried to destroy an Apple Watch in jail to cover his tracks, and he's now being accused of allegedly taking out hits on his own O-Block associate.
We got some stuff to get into because, bruh, what the hell?
Title: New Lil Durk Courtroom Footage. Has fans convinced he begged the judge to free him?
You ever watch a clip so short, but it feels like somebody's whole life is hanging in those few seconds? That's what this new Lil Durk Courtroom footage did to the internet. No dramatic soundtrack, no music video, just a man in a courtroom standing in front of a judge, and fans swear they can see him breaking. People are zooming in on his face, slowing the footage down, reading his lips, replaying the same 3 seconds over and over. Some swear they hear him quietly asking for mercy. Others say you can see it in his eyes, like he's silently begging, "Please, let me go home." And the crazy part? The clip doesn't even have perfect audio. You can't hear every word crystal clear. But that doesn't matter. The internet doesn't need clarity. It needs a story. One side is convinced this is the moment Lil Durk finally dropped the tough image and showed fear. The other side says, y'all are reaching. That's just a routine answer to a basic courtroom question. But either way, nobody can stop talking about it. Because when you strip away the chains, the jewelry, the stage lights, and the music, what you're left with is a human being standing in front of someone who literally has the power to decide whether he goes home or spends years staring at concrete walls. And that's what has people locked in. Not just the case, not just the charges. It's that look on his face when he glances up at the judge, then back down, like he's carrying every mistake, every headline, every rumor on his shoulders. Was he actually begging? Was he just speaking calmly and respectfully like his lawyer told him to? Or are millions of people projecting their own fears and experiences onto a man they've never met? Because here's the truth. That tiny piece of footage didn't come out of nowhere. It's not just a random day in court. It's the latest chapter in a story that's been building for years. From platinum records and sold-out tours, to court dates, filings, and headlines talking about serious federal charges and possible long sentences. Before we decide what we think he said with his mouth, we need to understand what he's been saying with his life. And to do that, we've got to rewind. Long before that courtroom clip went viral, long before people were lip-reading and arguing in the comments, Lil Durk was already living in two completely different worlds. On one side, you've got the success story. A kid from the south side of Chicago who turned pain into poetry, then turned that poetry into platinum plaques. He helped define an entire sound, carried the drill movement into the mainstream, and went from local buzz to global stages. Features with the biggest names in the game, #1 albums, arena tours, late-night TV, all of that. To a lot of fans, Durk isn't just an artist. He's proof that you can grow up surrounded by chaos and still make it out. He's the voice of people who feel like nobody ever listened to them until a rapper said what they were scared to admit out loud. But on the other side, you've got the
successful rapper and a Grammy Award winner. Federal authorities say Lil Durk is also behind an alleged murder-for-hire plot.
Wow, guys. We have Lil Durk, who's been gone now for a year.
The success never fully separated him from where he came from. Old situations, old beefs, old cases, and new headlines. If you've followed his career, you know his name has been tied to courtrooms almost as often as it's been tied to chart lists. Over time, that built a story around him. Not just Durk the artist, but Durk the problem, Durk the target, Durk the trouble always finds him headline. And whether you believe he's being unfairly targeted or you think the system is finally catching up, that perception matters, especially when you end up in front of a judge. So when news broke that he was facing serious federal charges, it hit different. Not a random traffic stop, not a small local case. We're talking about the level of court where the stakes jump from "this might hurt your career" to "this might change the entire rest of your life." Prosecutors put together their version of the story. Allegations of involvement in violent conspiracies, claims about who ordered what, who knew what, who might have had a role in things that went way beyond rap. The defense told a completely different story. That he's an entertainer, a businessman, a father, being painted as a monster because of the image the world has already decided to put on his back. And that's the tension at the heart of everything. Is he the guy the fans know from vulnerable verses and emotional interviews? Or the guy prosecutors describe in cold legal language and thick stacks of paperwork? Depending on who you ask, he's either a man trying to outrun his past or someone who never really left it behind. The court doesn't see the music videos, the sold-out shows, or the emotional lyrics that made people cry in their cars. The court sees documents, evidence, witnesses, and charges. The judge doesn't hear the ad-libs and crowd chants. The judge hears arguments, motions, and closing statements. And in the middle of all that,
they found out about it, and they did not. This has been going on for the last couple of weeks, I guess. And when they found out about it, and they presented it to the court had hid it and not said anything about it to the defense. So that means that if a judge is being threatened by a defendant, in all actuality, he should, what they call, recuse himself, get off the bench, and let another judge.
there's Durk, a global star reduced to a case number on a docket sheet. That's why this isn't just some rapper got locked up again to the people watching. They've seen him climb. They've seen him lose friends. They've watched him evolve in real time. So now, seeing him in a courtroom, standing in front of the judge, hits like watching the ending to a story you feel like you've been following for a decade. Because when a federal case steps in, everything gets heavier. Every lyric is replayed. Every old headline gets dragged back up. Every decision, every association, every rumor becomes part of the conversation, fair or not. And that's the environment that Clip was born in. It's not just a man talking to a judge. It's a man carrying years of public perception, street rumors, industry whispers, personal losses, and legal history, all packed into one short exchange the internet turned into a symbol. So when people look at that footage and say, he's begging, they're not just reacting to the words they think he said. They're reacting to the whole story they've already built in their heads about who Lil Durk is, what he's done, and what he deserves. Whether that story is accurate or not, that's a different question. But it's the reason this little moment in court exploded way beyond the courtroom walls. And why, for a lot of people, it feels like more than just a routine hearing. Because once you understand the journey from platinum records to federal charges, that look on his face in front of the judge hits way harder. The footage itself is nothing fancy. No cinematic angles. No flashy edits. Just a camera pointed at a courtroom, catching a moment that wasn't meant to be replayed 1,000 times in slow motion. It starts slow. The judge talking, lawyers at their tables, papers shuffling.
I'm sensitive to that issue because I don't know of another art form, and you have your finger on the pulse of rap as good as anybody in the world right now. And I guarantee you that Vlad cannot tell me another musical genre in which the government plays the game, if you have kids, and I know you do, Where's Waldo, right? Where they sit and look through not hundreds, not thousands, but probably tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of verses, and tries to find something that they think in their prosecutor's office or their law enforcement offices is somehow connected, possibly, to a crime. That's disconcerting to people that care about this musical.
The kind of scene that normally puts people to sleep. Then you see him. Durk stands up or shifts forward depending on which version of the clip you saw first. His hands are close together, his shoulders a little tight. He's not on stage, not behind a mic, not surrounded by screaming fans. Just a man in a quiet room where every word matters. The judge says something you can't fully hear in most of the edits. The audio is echoey, distant. But you can tell it's some kind of question, the type that normally gets a simple, yes, Your Honor, or no, Your Honor. And that's where the internet steps in and does what it does best: fill in the gaps. Some people swear you can see his lips forming a plea.
Durk's federal case just hit a whole new level of chaos. So authorities are now requesting an anonymous jury after alleged threats against a judge and prosecutor. Prosecutors say the rapper tried to destroy an Apple Watch in jail to cover his tracks, and he's now being accused of allegedly taking out hits on his own O-Block.
Others say they can read the phrase, "I just want to go home." A few claim they hear a soft, shaky tone, like someone who's not just answering politely, but pleading under his breath. The clip cuts in and out in different versions. Some show him looking toward the judge. Some show him glancing back briefly toward the gallery, like he's trying to lock eyes with someone behind him. Others freeze frame that single instant, where his mouth tightens and his eyes drop, almost like he just heard something he didn't want to hear. And from there, the theories explode.
There was no screams in it. What the government said is, look at these lyrics. These lyrics seem to be, they don't seem to be, they are celebrating and ultimately monetizing this incident. To which we responded, and I have to tell you, Vlad, we immediately started hearing from not only people that are connected to Durk, but like executives in the music industry. People were just reaching out to us, go, you know the government's wrong, right? You do know that music, you don't go to a studio on a Saturday and produce a song on Monday. And then we started doing our homework, interviewing the producers, and found out that that song and the Durk part of it was done 7 months before.
People turn into amateur lip readers overnight. They zoom in until the pixels blur. They add subtitles that may or may not be accurate, then upload them like they're fact. One caption says, "Please don't do this to me." Another, "Please, I'm trying to change." Another doesn't even pretend, it just writes, "He begged the judge to let him go." On one side, you've got fans watching that clip with emotion in their chest. They see fear. They see a man who looks smaller than they've ever seen him, not in height, but in power. No chains, no entourage, no giant stage, just the reality of, this person decides where I sleep. To them, that's begging, even if he never says the word. On the other side, you've got people saying, y'all are tripping. This is what every defendant does in court. They stand up, they answer, they sit back down. That's it. They argue that the clip is just a procedural moment, ripped from a long hearing and given way more emotion than it actually held. And the truth is, both sides are reacting to more than just the pixels on the screen. They're reacting to the timing. This isn't random footage of a regular traffic court appearance. This is a man facing serious federal charges. This is a case people have been whispering and arguing about for months. So when they finally get a raw glimpse of him in that environment, they don't just see a neutral moment. They see confirmation. If you already believe he's being targeted and pushed to the edge, you see a man who's tired and desperate, quietly asking for a chance. If you believe he's guilty and running out of options, you see someone who knows the walls are closing in, trying to soften the outcome any way he can. The internet takes a 3-second clip and stretches it into a full story. It becomes, look at his eyes. Look at his posture. Look at how his voice drops. And yet, under all that noise, there's one simple reality most people ignore. None of us were in his head in that moment. We don't know for sure if he was begging, if he was simply answering, or if he was just trying to remember the exact words his lawyer told him to say. But that's the problem with viral courtroom footage. It doesn't go viral because it's clear. It goes viral because it's unclear. And we can bend it into whatever story we want. Still, whether you think it shows weakness, strength, regret, or manipulation, there's one thing almost everyone agrees on. That didn't look like a superstar performing. That looked like a man who understands just how serious this is. And that's why, to really understand that look on his face, you have to think about more than just what happened in that 5-second window. You have to imagine what it feels like to wake up every day knowing that clip isn't just a trending topic. It might be the last calm moment before your entire future is decided. Now imagine this. You've spent years building an image that's bigger than life, or show that what's being presented doesn't add up. The clip that everybody's obsessing over? It might never even become a meaningful piece of the legal puzzle, because judges don't decide guilt based on whether someone looks nervous. They decide based on whether the prosecution can meet a heavy burden, proving their case to a specific legal.
But Durk's attorney, Drew Findling, known in the game as the billion-dollar lawyer, came back swinging. He said Durk wasn't trying to flee at all. He was just trying to get to Dubai for business.
Guilt based on whether someone looks nervous. They decide based on whether the prosecution can meet a heavy burden, proving their case to a specific legal standard. So while fans argue about whether he sounded scared, prosecutors are focused on building a story from hard pieces. Who went where, who said what can be traced, what can be verified. The defense is focused on tearing that story apart, piece by piece, or showing a completely different version of events. On top of that, there are all the quiet battles happening on paper long before a jury ever hears anything. Motions to throw out certain evidence. Arguments over what can and can't be shown or mentioned at trial. Debates about whether things like lyrics, social media posts, or past incidents should be allowed in front of a jury at all. Those decisions, and the ones most people never read, can change everything. They decide how the story is told in the room that actually counts. Because there's really two trials happening, one in public, where people judge him off a viral clip and a headline, and one in the courtroom where lawyers argue over statutes, precedent, and technical details most people never hear about. The public trial shapes his reputation. The courtroom trial shapes his future. And that's what makes that small moment in front of the judge so heavy, even if it never shows up in any official ruling. He knows that beyond his words in that clip, there's a stack of accusations and arguments being built around his name. He knows the conviction rates. He knows the risk. He knows that one decision from one person in a black robe could redraw the rest of his life. So yes, maybe his voice did sound softer. Maybe his shoulders did look tense. Maybe, in that moment, every tough verse he's ever recorded suddenly felt very far away. But at the end of the day, this isn't a movie where one emotional speech changes everything. It's a slow, grinding process of hearings, filings, evidence, and rulings. The clip might trend for a week. The verdict, whatever it is, will echo for years. Here's the crazy thing about all of this.
I hate rats. All rats, I hate them all. If you're a rat, I effing hate you. Because you took my dad away from me. A snitch got my dad thrown in prison for this much time. You don't think... Y'all ever met one of them weird kids who doesn't like a figure or something like that based off of something that figure might have did or might have said, and they might even be a good person? It's the same shit. The same shit. There are people who hate Santa Claus right now because Santa Claus never dropped no Christmas presents underneath their tree.
You're carrying that, plus millions of strangers, blogs, edits, and opinions stacked on top of your shoulders. Every blink becomes a meme. Every quiet answer becomes a headline. Every nervous breath becomes evidence in the court of public opinion. The price of being watched is that you don't get to be scared in private. You don't get to be confused, tired, or overwhelmed without somebody turning it into content. Even a moment that might just be a basic, "Yes, Your Honor," is turned into, "He begged to be free," because that version travels farther. So where does that leave us? Somewhere in the middle. Between the system and the streets. Between evidence and emotion. Between what actually decides a case and what decides a narrative. Maybe when you watch that clip, you see a man breaking. Maybe you see a man changing. Maybe you see karma. Maybe you see tragedy. Whatever you see, here's the question worth asking. Are you judging the moment or the story you already wanted to believe? Let me know in the comments what you saw in that courtroom footage. Not just with your eyes, but with your gut. And if you want deeper breakdowns like this, where we slow down the noise and really look at what's happening behind the headlines. Stick around. There's a lot more to talk about. A lot more to talk about. A lot more to talk about. A lot more to